Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to interview Cameron. So, Cameron, welcome.
G'day, Kendra.
So, Cameron, what is your full type?
So I was diagnosed ENTP, Mopasaurus. So um, MF, consume, sleep, play, blast. Yeah.
I like how you use the word diagnose. I say that to the INTJs because make them feel like it's a bad type. But like, what do you think? Do you like your type or not so much? Like, what's your opinion of it?
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Yeah,
They're all addictions and illnesses, aren't they?
right, exactly. So what did you think and how did you feel when you got your results back?
Um, so I was on a bus and so I had a bit of time to contemplate it, like a couple hours bus ride. I was not surprised at first with the animals and the modalities, because when I was sort of self-assessing, I got all those bang on. So consume, sleep, play, blast, MF. But I was 2 coins off on the decider and the thinking, feeling. So I sort of self-typed as INFP, consume, sleep, play, blast, MF. So pretty close. Um, and yeah, so I've sort of just been processing that since. And yeah, I don't know if I had too many like feelings off the bat. I was sort of just went into analysis mode, trying to figure out, okay, does this make sense? And yeah, sort of reflecting about it, I think like what my mind sort of always has done with, so I've been into MBTI for quite a while, always has done is gone, okay, default, I'm introvert, sort of IP because I see OE or PE, and then automatically sort of shoves me into the IP sort of hierarchy. But I've never sort of felt like the fourth spot DE sort of resonated, and I've sort of gone around in circles for ages. So yeah, it was quite interesting. I've sort of been thinking about it since for quite a lot.
Yeah, you do look like an IP, like from like just like a like how you look. You have like the
Yeah,
long head and stuff, like the IP, like how like
yeah,
ISTPs look or whatever. So or INTPs.
yeah.
So that's cool that I guess if you're like a super introvert, you become more IP-ish. Um
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that's very clear for me as an introvert. So
yeah.
yeah,
Let's go over your parts. Let's start with we're gonna work our way from your saviors to demons because the demons are like the more fun topic to talk about. So I want to
okay.
work our way towards there. Let's start with your first animal. It's consume. It's NT. It's double activated. How do you personally experience that NT consume of yours?
Yeah, so there's a lot of the stereotypical ways that I'll sort of talk through in a second, that relate to sort of the kind of NE and TI type activities. But then I was sort of thinking, you know, I'm focused on relationships and stuff quite a lot as well, or anything. So it's sort of like a lens that overlays your entire perception, right? Um, so I guess I'm just observing everything from an intuitive lens and um, sort of trying to analyze what I'm seeing. So that could apply to anything from things I'm consuming or people or anything like that. But in terms of stereotypical ways, it's a really good fit for the work that I'm doing. So my career choice. I'm sort of got an addiction to sort of learning conceptual information. So, YouTube backed up with too many videos, books that are, yeah, like just a ginormous consume of information for self, and the stereotype of sort of playing whack-a-mole with tons of different hobbies and interests and jumping between them. So that's, yeah, the one. Yeah, I was definitely certain on the NE and the DI going into it, and yeah, there's tons of examples in that space. So yeah, I don't know which one of those you sort of want to cover off first, but I can give a bit more detail.
Well, you can pick whichever one that you would like to cover. Otherwise, we can move on to the sleep. Actually, the sleep is exactly what I would really want to ask you about.
Okay, all right,
So you consume
sure.
a lot of conceptual information and whatnot, and then it gets funneled to your sleep next. Your sleep is STI, which is essentially getting things done. I mean, when I say get things done, like construct something physical. It's also tied to competence. So my first question to you is, what happens after you consume? How do you process it with your ST sleep? And then the second part of the question is your identity tied to competence?
So jumping to the second part, I think so in terms of identity tied to competence, particularly sort of pre-30. So I'm almost 39. And so because it's masculine as well, I've always had a really intense sort of achievement drive, sort of wanting to push myself very hard, work, whether it's work, sports, whatever. So yeah, you and I relate to that sort of kind of ego, that kind of ego in a spiritual sense. And then sort of post 30, I've probably still there, Kendrick, or have I dropped out?
No, you're here. Oh, he froze all of a sudden. So I'm going to pause this for now.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, sorry, I don't know where I dropped out there, but yeah, the drive for competence and pressure on himself, yeah, resonates a lot. And remind me, what was the first one was around how I process information once I've consumed it. Is that correct?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. So maybe a good example is like the OPS stuff. So in my own time, sort of creating my own little like Word doc or PowerPoint doc, sort of trying to learn and like write my own definitions, etc. Not to kind of share with anyone, just for me. So that might be one example. In terms of building stuff in reality, I'm quite impractical. So in that sense, not really, to be honest. It's yeah, I live in quite a analytical space, but a very practical space. And that I was wondering whether that might be the demon sensing, even though it's masculine, but I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Your sleep is double masculine. So do you feel anything different having that as double masculine in a sense where like it's really aggressive in how you do the ST and stuff? Like I know a lot of people with like ST sleep, for example, they get obsessed with weird like sensory things. Like some people get obsessed with money, like hoarding money, like they count every penny and stuff. Some other types, there's something weird going on. It's different for every ENTPs, but like
Yeah. So I think
weird.
yeah, I don't know about weird things, but when I'm thinking about this is I think if there's a TI goal that I've got or a DI goal, having the sleep, bringing in the SI, that's when I can become obsessive about pursuing it. So inevitably I sort of derail it with the NE, I think, but I have a penchant for wanting to organize my own sort of plans and getting quite obsessed down one path, just then to jump again to another, if that makes sense. So like with an example for money, there's been times in my life when that's been a sort of a key focus, and yeah, I can get into penny pinching, but then once that's no longer my DI goal, I sort of let the details go. Same with things like health and fitness. I can get quite obsessive in a little cycle and then jump to something else. I don't know if that fits or makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. You described it really well. Very concise too. Very blast of you. Yeah. Oh, dude. So we're exactly the same age, eh? Interesting. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm turning 39 soon too. So like I'm in the same boat. I'm just Asian, that's why I look young. But like, anyways,
I've just got 3 kids. That's why I look old.
Okay, I don't have any kids yet, not yet, but I probably will in the future because like me and my girlfriend have been like in the talks, But anyways, so oh my God, 3 kids. Okay, well, this is the perfect segue then. You have play third, and your play is NF. Okay, so it's like reading the vibe of the tribe essentially. Can you share a little bit of how you experienced that, and maybe you can use your family as an example? You have 3 kids, right? So I mean, like, how are you managing like peace, all these kids and stuff? And
yeah. I mean, yeah. When I'll jump into the examples in a second, but when I got the type result back, and I've only really been into type in my 30s, and I've probably been in more of a feelings or NF space in my 30s, to be honest. But yeah, I really never looked at things like ENTP because of like archetype sort of stereotypes, etc. But there's the cognitive stack does fit. Having NF third, it's not like a complete fourth thing. So yeah, they're both, it's double feminine in terms of the extroverted functions as well. So I'm very receptive and very, very movable with people. And like if you look at type descriptions of like INFJs, etc., I sort of have felt like that with people, sort of reading the vibe of their emotions, etc. And with my family, yeah, it's pretty good with the kids, etc. Just being silly, playful, trying to shift their emotional state. My eldest has a rare syndrome as well, so you sort of have to become a little bit of a master in terms of trying to pick apart what he's going through. Yeah, so I don't know, I think I'm pretty empathetic and pretty decent at reading the vibe of like family and stuff, and like to get silly, get down with the kids and have fun.
Yeah. Okay, well, since you're talking about being silly, let's talk about you being energy dominant. So you got
Okay.
you got play and sleep in the middle, so they're relatively balanced. Can you talk about being a goofy person? Like just not taking anything seriously, just having fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty relaxed. Maybe in a professional setting, I'd have to be sort of comfortable. But yeah, like, cause it's still like third, so I spend a lot of time in my own head or a lot of time by myself. But inevitably, I want to connect with people and have a good time, and so it's sort of like a gas valve release, and it sort of yeah, it's sort of like the feeling function I associate with like meaning in general as well. So like a life without connection and relationships becomes pretty empty in a way. So yeah, I don't know if I'm covering what you want here, but
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, like I said, it's concise, but you answered everything in as few words as possible, which is good. Few
is that the
comments.
blast last?
Yeah, your blast last. No, but you did answer it still, so whatever. Like, I mean, the first thing I noticed was like your abuse of analogies. Like gas valve. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you're definitely
Okay.
definitely N. You're definitely like N
Yeah.
savior. And then you're definitely a double decider because like you're not like an INTP. You're like going all in with yourself, and like you get to the end goal, you're like, oh my god, I have nobody. Because like like
Yeah.
you're like life is empty without people, right? So it's like, yeah, you figure this out, and like this is important, and you're not even though you're mope, you're not like disrespecting it. You respect it, if anything, which is like awesome.
Yeah, I think the issue with the play third is my energy taps out, so then I want to retreat. So only have sort of capacity for a certain number of like close friendships, etc. So that's if I'm meeting people, I can muck about, etc. But to get like actual close friendship, like, I can't maintain tons of different relationships at once. So I tend to focus on a few friends and my family.
I think that's better because then you can focus on the ones that matters the most, right?
Yeah.
All right, dude. Now it's time to talk about the fourth animal. Oh, this is the best stuff. Okay, so let's go with the SF blast at the very bottom here. Let's start with the SF part where you're controlling the tribe. So they always say like EPs are actually the most controlling type. And you have SF blast at the bottom, and what does your demon swing look like when that SF blast come out? Like what is like how do you what are you like when you're at your most horrible at like that SF blast where you're like lecturing the tribe at like how they should behave and stuff, like does it ever come out? I mean, I'm pretty sure it does. You have kids and stuff, so
Yeah, maybe only as a parent. Yeah, I'm pretty loath to lecture adults.
yeah.
Who am I to do that? It's not really my space. But I guess if there was something completely immoral like in front of me, I would say something, right. I tend to, but yeah, a lot of that comes out as a father, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a swing as much, more of a maybe a learned behavior. So like as a kid, the idea of blast or controlling other people, completely repressed, ignored. I guess I'm not a completely young person now. I'm on my way, so and I'm my kids are 8, 5, and 2, so I've got developed a bit of practice in terms of that blast in terms of SF. But yeah, where it's neglected, I suppose, is I have a hard time keeping up with sort of the SI details for the family. So I'm not proactively controlling, we're going to eat this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. What's the situation with the kids' clothing?
Right.
They're going to run out of shorts soon. I find keeping up with maintenance of vehicles, anything like that, I really struggle to keep on top of all of those sort of SF details. So it's probably more in maybe it's like the NF feeding into the SF as well. Like if I see something that's impacting on someone else's emotional state, that might prompt me to get into the sort of SF blast sort of behavior, perhaps.
Right.
Just a hypothesis. Yeah.
Because you're SF blast last, as you were growing up, into your teens, 20s, now your 30s, almost 40 now. Do you find that you've had some struggles with being passive aggressive? I'm not saying you are, but maybe you are, because blast.
Yeah, I think so.
Because blast at the bottom, right? So the way I picture it is like SF blast is you're trying to correct someone's bad behavior. So if someone is like mistreating you or someone that you care about or someone a coworker or a friend, family, the SF blast, if you had it a savior state, you might go up to someone and be like, hey, that's not cool. That's not the right behavior, and that's like the appropriate response, obviously. But you have blast last. So you're thinking it, but you're not doing it, right? So but you're almost 40, so I don't know if that has improved over time. But
yes,
yeah,
certainly improved over time. Like I can get quite awkward with it, especially with the feminine DE. So yeah, I mean, it's another reason why I thought for a while I was probably NF as well, because of the stereotypes around conflict, almost conflict avoidant in a way, like growing up, particularly, it's sort of developed over time, like more assertiveness. Yeah, I think makes sense. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, certainly growing up. Yeah.
Okay. What about the part of getting started and producing? Do you feel like that's the struggle as you got older? And then is it better now that you're like close to 40, or is it still like a massive?
Still such a struggle. Yeah. I think about doing something for way too long. So I'll sort of simulate my plans and like that's like intellectually. And never get to the start line. Or if I get to the start line, I'll pursue something for a bit, become like sleep obsessed with it for a little while, and then jump to the next thing. So I've got like a plethora of different interests and hobbies that I cycle through, and yeah, it's quite frustrating. And sort of like trying to, I thought it might have been NI in a way for a while. Like I was trying to map out things to the future, like do this, then this, then this, then this. But because I'm overwhelmed with different options and possibilities in my mind, I either set a plan and then abandon it and keep on the planning cycle, or never commit to like one path. My foundations of my life are all quite stable, like my career, all the sort of important stuff, but it's sort of like my personal interests and things that I try to pursue. It's really hard to sort of narrow down and pick one option.
Is there any particular side hobby that you've always wanted to pursue and you just haven't quite pulled the trigger on it, but like you really want to, and then it's like bugging you that you haven't pulled the trigger, but it's like
it's so at the moment, like I'm doing a writer's college course because I try to dabble in writing fiction, but also trying to learn the piano. I play a lot of online chess. I read a lot, study a lot of info.
Yeah, that's a lot already.
Yeah, I like running. It's impossible to, stick with one. So,
yeah.
And then in the past, like probably in my 20s, was sort of establishing my career. I'd get like a lot of business ideas and things, and never pull the trigger on those. And sort of almost come up with a business plan or try to simulate the activity in my mind or talking with others, and then either start a little step and then not continue.
Right.
It's quite a frustration. So I think that's still quite a big development opportunity to sort of narrow down and really just continue with one thing.
I guess the problem is they're all interesting. So,
Yeah.
Is there a part of you that kind of feels like fear that they're like, oh my God, I'm missing out. I could be doing this. I could be producing. I could be leveling up, and I just haven't pulled the trigger. Like what's wrong with me? Like that's kind of like does that thought ever come?
Yeah, it's yeah, it eats at you a bit. It's a little bit like it's like regrets a little bit. But the trouble is I with that drive for competence and maybe like a intuitive optimism,
Yeah,
I I kind of think that I can be good at like all these things, and I think that's almost realistic in a way. Maybe not to put myself too high there or anything. Like, of course, that I might not be, but um, with that in mind, it's really hard to pick. It's like they each look so attractive.
exactly.
Um, yeah, yeah, that's tough. Yeah, yeah.
I can relate.
Started doing writers college at the moment, so I've
Yeah,
just got a tutor, and I think trying to. But there's something that I thought about for years, like
yeah,
literally years. Like some people would be like, hey, I thought about doing that course, sign up that same day.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. That would be me. I have blasting
yeah,
here.
yeah.
I'm like, I really want to do this. I look online. Oh, available on this date. Sign up. Like done deal. Like
Yeah. So I'm
um,
sort of like researching it, ideating on different story ideas. I'll write like 5,000 words of something, then jump to another idea that I have, but
yeah.
simultaneously, because then I'm also thinking around piano or something else, and I'm trying to do that or learn chess openings or I don't know. Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah.
All right, dude. So I have some questions for you that actually I'm personally curious about from your type as being an ENTP. But before we jump into that, one last question in this area, I guess, is Dave and Shannon has been talking about the social scale. I don't know if you've seen it. Like they're talking about like 1 to 4 and stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself for 1 to 4?
Yeah, I haven't processed that fully. I've seen that starting drifting through in the last sort of month or so, but I've sort of asked myself the question, but I haven't landed.
I see.
Because like there's parts of me like with the mopiness and the blast last that pushes me quite low, I think, in
Right.
the scale in terms of wanting to really just go with the flow. But then there's that like, I've got an intense sort of drive as well in me, which I don't know where that sort of pushes up the totem pole in terms of my
I mean,
is it how you see yourself or how others see you? What's your thinking about that?
I think the biggest clue that I got was their recent video is when they said there's a lot of number ones and they see themselves as number one, but they actually suck. So um that means even though you see yourself as a one, you are not a one because you suck, but you still see yourself as a one. So it's your
Yeah,
self-perception of yourself essentially.
yeah. So is it so with them saying then you're not, that's implying then logically that it's external. External is the final arbiter on the social
It's
hierarchy.
Well, it's how you see yourself. I mean, there is like such thing as I mean, there's fours that are actually a one, like Joe Rogan. So he in the social scale, he's the best podcaster. So he's number one in that space, right? But he's a four because he doesn't
Yeah,
care. He did it to he did his podcast to talk shit with his friends, right? You
yeah,
know, so and
yeah,
like I see myself as a number two, so
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm gonna think about that a bit more.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, sounds good, dude. All right. So my question for you that I find interesting is like, we both have SI in the bottom, but I'm an ENFP and you're an ENTP. So as an ENFP, the thing that would piss me off is like paperwork. Like that's like one of the worst thing possible. Is like paperwork. Like I don't want to fill out forms, any of this nonsense. I just get absolutely triggered by it, right? Um, what is your SI get triggered by? Like
yeah. I similarly get triggered by that. So filling in forms, uh, yeah, keeping up with all that stuff, taxes, bank accounts, passwords. Like my wife just rolls her eyes at me whenever I have to like log into something because I never remember my password
yeah,
and I always have to reset it. Um, I think there was a video about like on Dave and Shan's around Dane Cook. I don't know if you've seen it, but he like gets ripped off from his brother, taking money from him in his business because he wasn't checking like the paperwork. So I sort of resonate with that. Like when I was younger, I wasn't checking my pay slips and I got overpaid for a for my part-time job. I was getting like a student allowance. and I had to repay the whole student allowance, even though I only got overpaid by 20 cents each week. It was $4 in total amount for the year or something. I had to pay back $3,000 or something.
Yeah.
Yes, stuff like that. Yeah, even like technology and stuff, which sort of very detailed forms, paperwork.
It's weird that you have those issues because you have ST, double masculine savior. I would assume it makes it a little bit less worse, but it sounds like it's still bad from your story.
Yeah. No, it is bad. I try to avoid it, and yeah.
What about the stuff that they talk about when it comes to identity? So, one of the things that they say about like ENTPs is you guys get weird about labels of how people label you. And if it's not like the right label that you resonate with, then you get really weird about it. Do you have that problem or not so much?
A little bit. Yeah. I want it to be accurate. Depends if I want to like externally put up a fuss about it.
Right.
Often not, but
okay.
If there's like like this is like a DI thing, I suppose, but if there's like a group label, which things are often quite nuanced. So I'm not sure my thinking on that anyway, but if there's a group label and if I don't fit into that, I can easily try to disagree with the labeling at the time. Similarly with other people as well. If everything's sort of stereotyped and too blunt, there's often quite a lot of nuance, which is another reason why I'm quite fascinated with the OPS stuff, because it's the most granular personality system that I've seen. So it adds a lot more nuance to really what's going on within someone's psyche.
Because there's so many
different.
That
makes sense.
There's so many different ENTPs. Like if you look at the traditional system, everyone's pigeonholed into the 16, right? But then it doesn't make sense really if you look at it, because like a lot of people don't fit into like the traditional 16 type, right?
I really struggled with that. Like I bounced around the 16 types for years trying to figure out what exactly fit for me.
Right.
Way too much mental energy invested in it,
Yeah.
Because like any way that I looked at it, like I could find an inconsistency or something that didn't quite fit, that seemed inaccurate, so I'd sort of throw it out. And I was wondering whether that actually might be if there's feminine NE at the top and then like the masculine SI at the bottom, whether the feminine NEs come up with tons of options, and the masculine sleep needs it exactly to be correct. And it's maybe drawing from my past and looking at specifics, and if it doesn't fit the overall pattern, whether I throw it out. So I was wondering whether that was something that was playing out in my cognition or not. I'm not sure.
So you said when you got type, you said that you were an INFP. That's what you thought you were. Is that the type that you've always thought you were, or it has changed over the years, kind of?
So when I first got into type, like most people got into sort of 16 personalities and etc. starting point.
Right.
And I would typically test as an INP with a very balanced thinking and feeling.
Okay.
But slightly more on the feeling side. So I would test a little bit more on the INFP. And as I got into understanding the cognitive functions, I toyed with the idea of INJ for a while, looking at both the INTJ and INFJ. And then eventually I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm, a P, OE.
Yeah.
So I sort of stuck with, because I've never seen myself as, an extrovert, like in terms of behavioral. So I stuck with INFP for a while because I also didn't really see fourth slot FE. So that didn't really make sense to me that would be fourth in my case, based on my experience. And did the official test, got INFP on that, but again, very close on INTP, like gave me the option. But yeah, I never really could let that settle because I just didn't see the D at the bottom. And then it was, couldn't logically connect it in my brain because they couldn't, put a E at the front either.
Right.
So I think the system from Dave and Shan adds a lot of nuance to it with the animal stack, in the sense that they don't actually characterize an introvert by whether the first letters an I or an E, but rather the stack itself. So
Exactly.
And two double introverted animals first. So my brain can actually make this connect,
right,
in a way that I haven't been able to previously.
Exactly. All right.
Yeah, but I was unsure on the FI-TI, so that was probably the last thing that I was sort of trying to process, whether I was a ENFP mope or an ENTP mope.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to cover with you today is your sexual modalities, your audio kinesthetic. What has your experience been like with both those sexual modalities? Learning from hearing or listening, as well as doing things with your hand and movement, essentially.
Yeah. So, a couple of my interests is sports and music. So I played a lot of basketball in my teens, and interested in running, etc. So there's a sports side, but I wouldn't say I have very good hand-eye coordination with anything that you've got like a racket in your hand, or it's pretty weak.
Yeah.
And again with like audio with music, so like things like learning a piano at the moment, I don't actually know how to read music yet. I sort of jumped to Synthesia online, like piano tutorials, like Guitar Hero, and just playing by ear. So I think that's probably a good example of audio learning. In terms of conceptual learning, that's challenging. I mean, I'm still trying to process that, because I learn a lot from, maybe I'm covering a lot of bases in terms of listening, reading, watching, so in terms of different media coming in. So I haven't isolated which one of those modalities is like feeding sort of intellectual part. So because my process of consume, I'm sort of using all of them. So I probably need to process that a bit more. But in terms of how it plays out with the feminine DE, that's very clear. Not at one point did I consider that I would be masculine DE. I'm way too movable people.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, dude. We're gonna wrap up the interview here. So thanks for coming out. I know we planned it several months ago, so it's awesome that we finally got it going. So yeah, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, and then I'll see you around.
Awesome. You too, Kendrick. Have a good one, mate. See ya.